This is Learn from Others, where we interview a cross-section of successful individuals so you can learn from their experiences, achievements, and even their mistakes. We ask 4 questions that will educate and inspire. Greg Stanley will be your guide as we join our guest on a journey from adolescent daydreaming to success in today's world. Join us on this adventure as we learn from others together.
Welcome to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. I'm very excited to introduce our special guest, Joel Bokelman. Joel, thank you for taking us on your career journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg. I've been blessed to get to experience a great career adventure, and I hope that sharing some of the details of that story helps your listeners maybe find out what they're passionate about.
Awesome. Well, before we find out what you're doing today, let's start at the very beginning, and please tell us, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, a lot of people might think this is weird, but I know you're a car enthusiast, so you might appreciate this. But I wanted to be a new car salesman. I loved going to car dealerships when my parents were shopping for cars, and I remember collecting and studying the brochures for the models and climbing in and out of every car in the showroom, and I thought dealerships were just amazing places.
I've often thought about doing that today, so I can totally relate.
Yeah, maybe our dreams can still come true.
Maybe one day. Well, what was your first job? One where you really felt like you had responsibilities and you wanted to perform well?
A lot of odd jobs as a kid, but the one when I remember getting my first paycheck was for a paper boy for the Northwest Press. It was a little local paper here in Cincinnati. It was a lot of work. I remember getting a stack of papers delivered, and you'd have to roll and bag the papers and deliver them, and then the hardest part was going around to collect the money from the customers. And so it was good to learn a lot about customer service, because I got to keep all the tips, and that was where the real money was at, but I only got to keep a portion of the fees for the paper.
Wow, that's amazing, because in the short life of this podcast, we've had a lot of paper boys and paper girls, which is amazing, because I never see a paper boy or paper girl anymore. So
yeah.
Wow.
I was walking around with the bag. Now I see some where they're driving their car and shooting them out the window.
Right. Well, what was one of your favorite subjects or hobbies in school?
I always leaned towards math and science subjects. I studied chemical engineering in college, and so that was more of my interest. I was always pretty bad at writing and language subjects, and even today I struggle to help my oldest daughter when she's got diagramming sentences as part of her homework. I still struggle with that stuff.
Wow, you've been all over the place here, because you're talking about car salesman, you're a paper boy, and then What did you say you majored in college?
Chemical engineering.
Wow. Okay, so we got a little bit of your background. Well, what do you do today? And if you would, walk us through your resume, including your education and the different positions you've had that led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so out of school, I graduated with a chemical engineering degree and went to work in the metal recycling industry. I always kind of thought I'd be on the new car side, or maybe even with that degree, maybe helping design new parts of cars. And when I started, we were actually going around to scrap yards, and we had a piece of analytical equipment that went in there, and it was where they cut up cars, where cars went to die. So it was kind of the opposite end of the cycle, where that would be steel that was recycled and turned into new steel panels. So I was a field service engineer and had sites in Denver, as far west as Denver in the country, even had a couple over in Europe that I helped take care of, and did that for about 6 years.
So what's the instrument or device you said you would take there? What does it do?
It was a pretty massive device, and it was pretty cool because it had a radioactive source that started the analysis. The shredded material would run through the analyzer and would give a report of how much the elemental breakdown was in that shredded steel, and so how much copper, nickel, chrome, manganese, and zinc was in there. And then when it was shipped to a steel mill, the people making the steel would know what they were putting into that batch. It's kind of like what was in their recipe for their end product.
That's very interesting. So would it quantify it as different grades of reusability, for lack of a better word?
So that was more based on we've kind of provided the tool, and then the customers might call it something different based on what their end users wanted. So if it was a certain grade or had certain qualities or characteristics.
Okay.
Kind of said we were like the speedometer on the end of the machine.
So you traveled the country, and sounds like even a little bit of the world in that position.
Yeah, it was great. It was great exposure, getting to travel. It was, as a field service technician, it's kind of lonely. You're going by yourself. You're not traveling with a team, and usually just there to the installs were fun, but then when something's broke, they just want you there as soon as possible and fix it as soon as possible and kind of get out of there. So sometimes it was a little lonely, but it was a great opportunity to get see some places that I never would have. And then we were fortunate enough to start having kids, and just travel was a pretty hard deal with our family. And that was what really led to starting to explore some different opportunities.
And take us down that path of what those different opportunities were and where it led you.
Yeah, so I have a Christian faith background, and so this plays into my story, but the real start of what I'm currently doing now, the genesis sort of moment, was on a flight out to our site in Denver, and I was reading a book by one of my favorite authors and preachers. Is a guy named Greg Boyd from a church in Minneapolis called Woodland Hills, and the book was called Myth of a Christian Nation, and part of it he was just talking about so much of Jesus' ministry was just meeting needs, not judging, not teaching, but it would often start with meeting people's needs, and what would it look like for us to do that today? And I thought, man, what would that look like for me? I remember thinking, I love cars. I've always loved anything to do with cars, and it seems like Habitat is doing good things for housing, but it seems like transportation is a big need. So what if there was something like Habitat for Cars? And it was bing, that was the light bulb moment, staring out the window on that plane, and that was over 10 years ago now. And there was a lot that happened in between then and starting Changing Gears, but still today it's the best way to describe what we do is Habitat for Cars.
So tell us your job title and then your company and a little bit about it.
Yeah, so coming out of that, my wife and I started, it was a long journey, but we started a nonprofit called Changing Gears, and I get to lead our team as the president. Our mission at Changing Gears is to help remove transportation barriers for people who are working their way out of poverty. And we do that by restoring donated cars and then selling them to approved clients at half off with a no interest loan and access to a discounted repair program. And we're one of the partner agencies located at a bigger group called CityLink Center. So we get to focus on transportation needs, knowing that our other partners are helping with other needs as someone's trying to work their way from a job that doesn't have a living wage to a place where they can have real self-sufficiency.
That's awesome. That's a really great program you started up. And after 10 years, how many cars would you say you've placed with new users?
Yeah, so about the first 5 years of that was trying to figure out how to tell my wife I wanted to do something like this, and then having kids in there, and we tried different partnerships, and things just, that was one of a challenge of learning how hard partnerships can be, but all of that led to, we've got about 5 years under our belt now of actual operations, and in those 5 years we've sold 118 cars to clients. And one of my favorite parts of that is we provide a loan, a no interest loan, and we're really passionate about that hand up versus hand out model, and it's really empowering when a client's able to pay something off. And so when they pay off their loan, we get to cancel the lien on the title and give them the title to their car, and that's personally my favorite moment. And we've had all but one of our clients are either on track or have paid off their loan, and we've gotten to give them the title to their car, which is just a really awesome celebration.
That is amazing. That is awesome. Well, what are some of the most challenging and rewarding aspects of your job? I'm assuming that's one of the most rewarding, but can you speak to some of the most challenging aspects?
Yeah, the challenge relate to a lot of probably small business owners or entrepreneurs out there. Sometimes it just feels like there's a lot of weight on your shoulders. Sometimes you don't have the answer, but you got to figure it out. So that's all a part of the adventure. Another challenge is we're working with cars that are 10 to 20 years old with 100 to 200,000 miles, and the cars just break. And so with our clients, we want to sell them a car that hopefully never breaks, but have to be ready for something of when it does. And so that can just lead to some challenging situations. But the reward is part of that challenge is, when our clients are telling us the stories about how their cars are saving them so much time, where it used to take 2 hours to get to work on a bus, it now takes a half an hour with their car. So we're talking about round trip, that's 3 hours a day that they can have to do anything else they want with. And just some of those one of my favorites is when we get to go to, one of our clients has got the keys to a Habitat house, and we get to go celebrate with them, and their car's parked in the front yard, and they're getting the keys to their house. So those are some of the rewarding parts of the job.
So how would someone apply, for lack of a better word, and what type of qualifications would they need to be a potential candidate for one of these cars?
For one of the cars, so all of our clients come through CityLink Center. CityLink is a lot of services co-located, but also integrated together and working together. But the first step is contacting or walking through the front doors of CityLink Center. And there's more information about that on our website, or I could share their website as well. And then it's working through with one of our partners called Smart Money Financial Community Services, and they take care of getting someone ready for the total cost of owning a car. It's not just the car payment, but it's the insurance and the gas and the maintenance and making sure that fits in your budget. And their work is why we've been so successful with having so many of our clients pay off their loans. Then we teach some workshops on owning a car and maintaining a car, some hands-on stuff of how to jumpstart a car, how to change a tire. And then we actually have volunteers that help do a lot of the work. And we have our clients, one of the requirements is to come in for sweat equity. And they come in and serve alongside our volunteer teams, and it's a great way to build some relationships, but for them also to get to learn how to work on some cars.
That's a great idea, because I've had old cars in the past, and they're great to have, but it's when you make that bond with them by, rebuilding part of it or, working on it, it really bonds the owner to the car as they start to get their hands dirty and roll up their sleeves and work on different aspects of it. So that's really cool.
Yep.
So what is your typical day like? Like, kind of walk us through what you go through, maybe a week. I know you're probably all over the place.
Yeah, it's funny. Wear just about every hat until you're able to hand it off to someone else. And so it's the regular putting out the fires, but it's also the HR and IT and toilet cleaning or whatever the task is that needs to get done. And so it's a little bit of all over the place. We've got a great team that handles, we've got a staff of 4. We're about to expand to 5. And we've got a great team that handles all the cars that are coming in and turning them, either getting ready to be a car for a client or a car that we use for fundraising. And another woman on our team takes care of all the client interactions. And so it's really just working with that team to try to achieve our mission.
Where do you source the cars? And then if you could talk a little bit about the cars for fundraising.
All of our cars are donated, and it's really just spread through word of mouth. We try to do some advertising, and there's a lot of places that take donated cars. I'm definitely biased, but I think the donors get a great experience when they donate a car to us. And what's unique about our operation is that their car has a chance to be used by one of our clients. And that seems to resonate a lot of people because people are connected to cars. When we pick up cars, we've got a tow truck that we can go and pick them up, and we notarize the title and take care of everything. And people are crying, people are taking pictures as we're driving away, tears of joy, but it's people have a connection with their car or telling us what their car's name is. And so it's fun, and I think donors appreciate that their car has a chance to help out somebody else. As far as the fundraising cars, so we can literally take any car in any condition as a donation, and we bring it down to our shop. We have an ASE master technician on our staff. He'll do an assessment and figure out what the best use of the car is to help accomplish our mission. So there are certain cars we love. We want them to be easy to maintain and hopefully on the cheaper end to operate for our clients. And if for any reason the repair needs or just the characteristics of the car make that not appropriate, we're licensed as a used car dealer. So I kind of do get to be a used car salesman, maybe not a new car salesman,
right.
But we sell those off to the public, and that's how we fund the majority of our program. So we're able to, through all those car sales, we cover about 75% of our budget, which is a great deal for a nonprofit, and then we have to go out and fundraise the rest of it.
Well, that's great. I know that there's a tax benefit to the person that donates.
Yep. So you're eligible to include it with your deductions based on the value of the car, and it even helps out more if we make an improvement to it before we sell it. You can deduct a higher amount.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Well, before we move on to our next question, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors. Do you enjoy your job and find it fulfilling? Or do you spend more time wondering what if instead of what's next? If so, contact Career Spa. Career Spa has extensive programs and curriculum and understands the challenges faced by individuals in transition. They can teach these success practices to be mastered for an effective job search. Answer that what if question by contacting Career Spa and asking their experts, what's next? Contact Career Spa at careerspa.net. Talent acquisition is key to building a successful organization. Talent Connections is a professional services firm that specializes in recruiting, including executive search, contract recruiting, talent acquisition consulting, and recruitment process outsourcing. Whether you are an individual or a Fortune 100 company, Talent Connections can connect you with success. Contact them at talentconnections.net. Welcome back. We just learned what you wanted to be when you grew up and what you actually do today. So if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently?
Man, it's a good question. I don't know that I would do anything differently if since it brought me to where I'm at. I would probably try to not worry as much about what other people think going through that process. But I'm just so thankful that I get to do this job, and so I wouldn't change anything.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great. Well, if someone wanted to do what you do, and you define that as you feels appropriate, what advice would you give them? Is there a typical career path you would suggest?
I guess my path for changing gears would be most like that of an entrepreneur. I mean, it's fun. We've got to kind of start a business. It's a business, and it has a business-like operation, but it also is executing this charitable or philanthropic need. And so it's fun to get to have both of those. But I think like any entrepreneur, that path really starts when you find something that you see that isn't right. And rather than just conforming, it's trying to find a different way to fix whatever that thing is. And so I think that would probably be the path how I've gotten to where I'm at now.
Well, now, have you had a mentor in the past? And if so, how did they influence your career?
Not really one mentor like Mr. Miyagi and Karate Kid, but
great reference, by the way.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of different mentors, and I think it's just the right mentor at the right time. So yeah, definitely leaning on people that have gone before me and trying to learn from their experiences has helped a lot.
Now, what kind of experience was it starting up a nonprofit?
It's a great experience. And like I said, it really is. And you see a lot of this in business now where people want to give back, and it's not just about the bottom line. So there is, like I said, there's bills to pay, there's payroll to meet, there's the business of it. But the nonprofit part is fun because it's something that I'm passionate about, and it's something that is a little bit easier to tell other people about because they're excited about it. It's not just there to just make money. As far as kind of maybe advice for others, and I got this advice along the way, was to find something that you're passionate about. And they described that as saying being passionate about something doesn't mean it's just something that you enjoy doing. You wake up every morning and you just want to, and can't wait to get out of bed and go do your job. But when you're really passionate about something, it means something that you care so much about that you're willing to sacrifice for it. I'm passionate about helping people in a sustainable way, that real hand up versus hand out model. And I just happen to love cars, and so that's kind of how Changing Gears came to life.
That's awesome. That's really great. Well, are there any current projects you're working on that you would like to share?
Man, Changing Gears is the biggest current project, and we always need more donated cars to fuel our work and more volunteers to restore those cars. And we literally, like I said, take any car in any condition, and we can use volunteers of all skill levels. So you can find out more about both of those at our website at changing-gears.org.
Okay, great. Well, as with most journeys, you're a car guy, I'm a car guy. Success largely depends on reliable transportation. And since I'm a huge car enthusiast, could you tell us what was your first car?
Oh, yeah. So it was a red 1986 Toyota Corolla SR5. And that was a great car. It was a small, light car with a manual transmission and rear-wheel drive, so it was a lot of fun to drive. It was a hand-me-down from my older brother. I clearly remember sitting in the driveway before I was 16 and could drive and just shifting through the gears and pretending I was driving it.
That's awesome. Now, that was a four-door with a trunk? It wasn't a hatchback, was it?
No, it wasn't. There was similar. It actually was a two-door. And it had the flip-up headlights. It was great. And my parents used it to trade in for another car for my brother. I think they sold the thing for like $200 because it had some issues when they traded it in. And I wish I could have that car back.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Well, what's your dream car? I have the sneaky suspicion you do have one.
I do. For a long time, my dream car has been a BMW, the E46 generation M3. That's always been a dream of mine.
And that's what, mid-90s? Early 90s?
Like 99 to 04.
Okay. Yep. One perk to some jobs is a company car. So I'd like to buy you a really cool company car if I had all the money in the world. And you might be disappointed in this one because it's not performance oriented. I went by your company and extrapolated your goals against the car, which is kind of a stretch. So I actually picked the 1908 Model T because it's not a performance car. But it's what made cars affordable to the middle class. So the price went from $2,000 for a typical car. The Model T came out. It was $825, and by the end of its production run, they had gotten it down to $260.
Yeah.
So it really expanded the automobile industry to the average person.
I love it, and that is we're in Cincinnati, and so many people struggle with transportation, and so we need a solution that just makes transportation so much more affordable. You know, a lot of jobs are served by the bus line, but it just takes a long time, and or running errands or trip chaining on your way home, of stopping at the grocery store and doing other stuff. It's just you need a car, and so I love the Model T and getting cars to the people. So that's great.
Yeah, and the other aspect of it, which a lot of folks don't realize, is that they actually use that Model T for a lot of other chores around the house. So they would hook it up to a machine, and now it's their it would power their laundry or their dryer or their washer or all sorts of things. They wanted a power saw, just with belts, they could, link it up. There was a kit that you could attach to the pulleys to power other things around the house. So it was
great.
Very multifunctional. So
that's great.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking us on your career journey today. What's the best way our listeners can learn more about you or your company?
At our website at changing-gears.org.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you for listening to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. Where will our next adventure take us? Subscribe to find out. If you know of someone who has a cool career story or occupation, contact Greg through Instagram at Greg Stanley LFO. That's GregStanley LFO. And we will see you soon as we learn from others together.